The margin then the Java Najum, Yanda was on the Sanya Rivada Sabsuta. The Vareshavan Jidin by Jivon, Kalo Java Lana Meva Hada Milan Jedam. Sanjay Jim then the Bejan Shaja. Sazelo Jedo Java Demba. Jim then the Java Najuma Yanda. Zobe Sanya Rivada Sabsun Demba, the Vareship. Jidin Java Jivon, the Kalo Java Lana. Tada Milan Jedam by Sanjay Jim then. Bejan Shaja to Mama Sazan, what should I jump to see you? The margin then the Java Najuma Yanda. Zobe Sanya Rivada Sabsun Demba, the Vareship. Jidin Jamba Jivon, the Vakano Java Lana. Tada Milan Jedam by Sanjay Jim then the Bejan Shaja to Mama Sazan, should I jump to see you? Kanzeganyan Zoa Jadam Zayan Sajan Dena from Batipan. Manage then the Nacho Jason, the Zakeva Jama Chaz. Namda Bunga Jodo Susan, why you shake out to say Janum. Chaban Jiden Suma Lameba, Gombo Chuni Jama Chaz. Senjo de Martimen, the Veshe, Sendo Dawa Jama Chaz. The region of Zeba Sumaje, Yame Chinja Jama Chaz. Gombo to Jesha and Matam J. Jamel Tombo, Solomon Danger. The Jinsha Masa, the Motaben de Jat, giving us on the region, Chidut and the Machu. Shinjucho Masa, the Motrina Trevor, Lavata, Shingetan by you that they get them on your chance. The Wachian musician gave up also was a young son. Ten Sanjay Dama, Karma, you must have a children. Melon Lord, gentleman, the Jishon, the Delta, Sonam Dietam Jizaway. Covandum the Junjin that the garden not the children. Sivezon and the one Jovarisho.
To the teacher, the blessed one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, no overword, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, no overword, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one gone beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfecting knowledge and good conduct, Sugata, no overword, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings and go for refuge. When as supreme among humans you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides and said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise then I prostrate. With the pure body's form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, without the past, to you I prostrate. With the supreme science, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, teacher having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to darkness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality, to that Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community tending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud,
see conditioned things as such. Through
Through
this
these
spirit,
merits,
the
sentient beings attain and go all sin,
subdue
subdue
the
the
four
four faults, and be delivered from motion of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death.
Sanje Jona Zoja Jona No Chanju Bato Nane Jazuji. Nagin Zoja Betonam Ji and Rola Pinja Sanje Dubuji. Sanje Jona Zoja Jona No Chanju Bato Nane Jazuji. Nagin Zoja Betonam Ji and Rola Pinja Sanje Dubuji. Sanje Jona Zoja Jona No Chanju Bato Nane Jazuji. Nagin Zoja Betonam Ji and Rola Pinja Sanje Dubuji.
I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
Kede Bumba Dayana, Jadan Juba Janu Jurun, Kede Bumba Namaje, Bumba Senior Meba, Dani Yubama, Dagi Yubama, Dadan Dagi Shiva Jiran, Zimanya Zimajura, Zimanya Zimeka, Te Yubama, Nanzimanya Zimeba, Kanga Tua Medum, Nanda Children, Dadan the Bidu. Nyawane Baba Jijan, the Zibin, the Javase, led on your most Sevatara, led on your Monamdole, Tadaju, Jovan, Tomani Jagawa, Dawajian, Damaji, Sanjan, Damega, Java Chawan over the Simji Juyo, Majapa, Junior, Tamja Yanda, Yandami, Yanda, Mayini, Yandami, Yandami, Tennis, Shanajimi Shivadan, Jovan, Namdo, Senior. Kama de Nagarjuna, Tene Regedi, Tene Shema, Tijima Damania, Sanjin Jedem, Demba de Juba, Tunjimania Tade Micheva Mania Damani, Zozanja Namajuji, Nedema de Seba, Razanji, Demba Mela Rabde, and other Chua of the Jejamaru de Juba, Joge, Kangia, Don the Dijon, women of the Juba, Super Meba, Sanjeta La Charge, yeah, so maybe I'll read 155. Stanzas number 9. Yeah, so if aggregates have not ceased, so this is the root text. If aggregates have not ceased, though the addictions or afflictions ceased, there is no nirvana. So now this is the if aggregates have not ceased, though the addiction ceased. If you continuously have the conditional suffering of the aggregates, you have this continuum of this the conditional suffering. Although you have eliminated all the afflictive emotions, so you haven't really reached nirvana. This means that. So now this kind of, so first we'll read a little bit in the scriptures, it is said, when the aggregate cease, so that is Nirvana, this occurs in when the aggregate cease, Nirvana, this occurs in the the utter abandon of this suffering, utter abandon of this suffering, their complete dispel as a dispersal, purifications, eradications, detachment from desire, cease, pacifications, disappearance. So, I think sometimes the language creates a little bit, changes the meaning. So, it's supposed like the utter abandon of not the these, this suffering, pointing at one particular, this present condition of suffering. The utter abandon of this condition of suffering. So, in their complete dispersal, Dunga de Maluba, yeah. So in Tibetan it says Dungen Dik, so this, not these. So is this means present, whatever is pointing, this condition of suffering, this present condition of suffering, without having abandoned and Changwajuwa means Rabdupangpa, complete dispersal, right? Dispersal?
Yes.
Yeah. So Rabdu Tangwa means abandon, and the Rabdu Tangwa, complete dispersal means, you have abandoned is not just temporary, forever abandoning. And when you abandoned, Tangwa Chakwa the Chakwa. So therefore, this is the reason you have even the present condition of suffering has abandoned and forever abandoning. Therefore, there is no attachment, no attachment. And that Nirvana is Gopa, is Gopa means it is, preventing, what it prevent. Now it's forever, it's stopped, and pacifications. Forever it stopped means now kind of, what it has stopped. And the second line says pacifications. The pacification means how you stop the afflictive emotions, how you stop the condition of sufferings. So the condition of suffering is by abandoning, forever abandoning, and forever it stopped to continue. So therefore, Nyavashiva, so pacification. Now another reason is pacification of, the mental construct, mental proliferations, by, pacifying mental proliferations and disappearing the every condition for generating afflictive emotions. So this is that. So when I had to read the English, this is used the plural, these sufferings, not these, because the past has already ceased to exist, and the future is for sure is not coming. Now, what is in the present? If you think if there is some condition of suffering, that has to be abandoned too. 3 times no conditional suffering. And then forever it is stopped, complete dispersal. Purifications. Use the purification or the pacification, because Nyavashiva is not purified, it's not make pure. It's pacifications. Pacification of mental construct or mental proliferations. Why? Because these are the feed for afflictive emotions. So that has totally pacified. So pacified in eradications is abandoning, gopa, or stopped. Therefore, detachments from desires, so free from attachment. And cessations, pacification, disappearance. So it's something that is where this mental proliferation go, where they goes, where they went. So then disappearance in emptiness, disappearance in emptiness. Then disappearance and disassociate from any other sufferings. So then, disassociation means there is no next join of conditional suffering. So there is no movement that there's no movement in the future that you can join in any conditional suffering. Disassociations, any other suffering, and non-productions of any further suffering. So therefore, there is no new join in the condition of suffering. So, non-productions, no coming, no arising of the birth again, sufferings. Anything that is, these very things is peace. So that's now this whole quality, put together and then says, this is the permanent state of peace. The very thing is the peace. That is sublime. That peace is sublime. So usually, sometime in Tibetan word, Chandomba, Chandomba is sublime, abundant good, plentiful. So it means there is no moment after this, after this having attained Nirvana, there is no moment that you may, come in the condition of, dissatisfactions or some discomfort or disturbance. So anything that's very peace, that is sublime, and it is like this, completely dispensing, right? Dispensing with all aggregates. So any conditional suffering or any conditional aggregates or any appropriation aggregates has totally ceased to exist forever. Dispensing the aggregates, the eradications of the cyclic existence, detachment from desire, and the cessation are nirvanas. So nirvana has this kind of whole qualities, So this Nagarjuna in the root text, if the aggregates have not ceased, though the addiction ceased, if the aggregate here, appropriation, aggregates, conditional sufferings, and the conditional suffering means, and then the originating originated suffering. So these are pretty much has same meaning in there. Appropriations, aggregates, conditional suffering. So so Nagarjuna have said this: if the aggregates have not ceased, if you have continuum of this conditional suffering of the aggregates, although you have eliminated all the afflictive emotions, there is no nirvana. Means, so the conditional suffering, the aggregates, or the thought of aggregates, thought of the aggregates, and this is the condition for the, condition for the generating the grasping self of a person. Thought of body is conditional for the grasping of self of a person, conditional of the aggregates of the feeling. The thought of the aggregates of feeling is also the conditional for the generating grasping self of persons. Because I feel this, so therefore I am there. This is my body, or my body, my thought, my perceptions, So these are all conditioning for the grasping of self. So this is, if this has not stopped, and you have, although you think that you have, eradicated all the afflictive emotions, you haven't reached nirvana. So Nagarjuna, and then he kind of, the Chandrakirti related to the sutra, and the sutra says, this very conditional suffering is not having ceased to exist, not having abandoned, and there is no possible of attaining nirvana. And nirvana is, has contained so many qualities. This particular condition of suffering has to abandon, and that abandoning is forever, and purified, purified. So, and Dejadatava, free from attachment, and then gobas, eradications, and pacifications, all these qualities together, and this is say nirvana. This is the nirvana.
This word of addiction here is more appropriate to say afflictions or delusion.
Yeah, delusion and afflictions right now is the same meaning. Yeah, same meaning. Delusional. I'm not sure exactly how the English, understands the delusions and afflictions. So I think, if someone who has not studied the Buddhist texts, they may think that delusion is just confusion, and afflictions is mind that brings, suffering, the emotion that brings suffering. So in the Buddhist, according to the, Buddhist texts, is a combination. Every afflictive emotion, every, disturbing mind, or any conditionally disturbing mind, or any afflictive emotions is confusion and is afflicting. So in Tibetan, translate Nyen Mong. So the Nyen indicates discomfort, unpleasant, dissatisfactions, something that not comfortable, and then why? Because this very emotional, which is confused, is the object. when your mind confuses the object, your mind misunderstood the object, your mind superimposed the object. At the same time, the feeling with each of this mind is discomfort and dissatisfaction, like that. So therefore, together we say afflictive emotions. Afflictive emotions. To respond in the scriptures, the word these sufferings, these is not like this suffering, pertain to the suffering of present life alone. So when Buddha says, what does the nirvana means to you? So nirvana means to me is, not only the past and the future condition suffering, this present suffering has to be abandoned. So and that is also what is referred to in the word utter abandonment, up to disappearance. So this, what you have abandoned, the suffering, is not like you wash by the detergents or you cut it out by the knife. It's something, when you abandon it, throw it somewhere. So what you have abandoned is also disappears in emptiness. Up to disappearance, and the passage beginning with disassociation from any further suffering up to nirvana indicates the suffering in the futures. So next life, there's no continuous suffering in the next, and the past ceases to exist. Present also cease to exist. Yeah. I think, so pretty much this is, in this way, when you read it, according to Theravada traditions, they also, agree with us. So that's, this, Theravada says, so this is why we think, nirvana, at the time of nirvana, is a total, the kind of cessation of continuum of, consciousness in the body. Because it says it has to abandon this present condition suffering too, nirvana. So therefore, you have to leave this condition suffering. Without this, you cannot attain nirvana. So Nagarjuna says, if the aggregate has not ceased to exist, it is the, the intrinsic property of the conditioned suffering. So intrinsic property of the aggregates, intrinsic property of the body, feeling, perceptions, emotions, without having abandoning them, continuously conceiving, imposing. There's the aggregates of the body, aggregates of the feeling, aggregates of the perception, emotions. And, and that is always be the case of generating, making possible of the grasping self person. So there is, as long as there is the grasping as the body, feeling, thought, perceptions, there is always chances to generate the grasping self persons. This is why you have to abandon it. So then says, again this is, you are not still saying that present condition of suffering, the aggregate has to abandon. So does that mean, you have to leave the body? And says, no, it is conditional suffering. So, so there's a, if you have, for example, And so it is aggregates, the aggregates of the conditioned suffering. Conditioned suffering is, in Tibetan word, Dharma language, it says, Dugnel wa is not Dugnel. Dugnel wa, so that's wa is the, is a conditional sound. That is conditional. And in the Sanskrit, dukkha is not the duk, not just duk, dukkha. So, which means it is, by nature it is not suffering, but it is conditional suffering. Like as I mentioned, a certain example, when you have, hot water that is boiling in the pot, it is a conditional hot. When we say it is a conditional hot, so that means it is possible I can have this water without hotness. If I remove the water from the stove and keep it away from the fire, then it may go go cold. So now Nagarjuna thinks this condition of suffering means as long as this aggregate is conditioned or under the influence of the afflictive emotion, yes, it is the condition of suffering. So this is the Chi Ming Chiradu Juwas. So like human being, we said, or Indian people, American people, European people, Chinese people, the persons, pointing at the body, and he is Chinese. So I think Chinese means it is not found Chinese within the body. It is not found the Chinese in the flesh or skin or anything. It is the place you come from, where you're born, where your family. So that's your name, Chinese, in Tibetan, So in this way, this body is conditioned. It is happened and with help of karma and afflictive emotions. So this is why it is named a conditioned suffering. Now, when you remove the afflictive emotions, in a very close way, when you look the body, just the body, there is no conditioned suffering because there's no relation. This body has no relations. There's no influence. There's no any force from the afflictive emotions. Like sometimes we say, the cloth, the oily cloth, right? The cloth is oily cloth. It's oily cloth, so which means we can't understand this cloth is oily, therefore it is not wearable, right? So, that means, we are not going to, you don't have to abandon, you don't have to throw it away. You can wash it, you can separate the cloth from the oil. Dirty cloth means it is unwearable, it is dirty, it is not likable, it is not appropriate to wear this. Why? Because they're dirty. And if you remove that from dirty from the cloth, and cloth is once again wearable, it is likable, it's comfortable to wear it. So this body is named the condition of suffering because this body has been influenced, forced with the afflictive emotions. So when the Arhat, they have this continuity of this body, But if you look closely, there is no slightly any influence. It can, it can influence by the afflictive emotions. This body, when you are free totally from afflictive emotions, your body is also free from afflictive. But still, you have name tag is there as the condition of suffering, because the origin of the suffering is not related to it. Origin of the suffering has abandoned with the seed. So now this is because it comes from there, therefore it's named conditioned suffering. So now Nagarjuna is saying that when the Arhat who has, totally and, settle or abide in that emptiness, and their mind is totally free from all the afflictive emotions, all the disturbance, all the attachment, so the mind that which is dwelling or, settled into the emptiness, there is no any thought of body, feeling, perceptions, emotions. There is no thought of aggregates. So Nagarjuna says, this is what it means in Sutra, without having abandoned this particular condition of suffering, no Nirvana. So that does not mean you have to leave the body. So according to Theravadan, philosophical schools, usually we can say Theravadan, but Vivasika school and Sutantika school are according to their school. So when they read the sutra line, it says, without having abandoned this condition of suffering. So which means for them, so as long as you have this body, you are not going to attain Nirvana. You have to leave the body to attain Nirvana. So, according to this sutra, so definitely the Nirvana means, right after having abandoned this body. And who, Arhat, who have abandoned this body, they attain Nirvana. So you see the Chandrakirti and Nagarjuna's the descriptions of the line, and Sutantika school, Vivasika schools. So they are literally, taking this meaning. So I think in order to understand this, when we say dukkha or dugnalva or conditional suffering, it is two syllables together. Conditional suffering. And it is suffering and conditional. So which one is conditional suffering? Your aggregates. Aggregates of the body, aggregates of the feeling, aggregates of the perceptions, aggregates of the thoughts, aggregates of the emotionals. So this is a conditional suffering. Two things come together. It is the aggregate, it's the hip of, all the the constituents of the element, they kind of hold together, put together, or it connected together, so it's become the hip of the aggregates. So we say it's aggregates. So this aggregates, this whole join of the constituents of the element, the space, air, heat, moistures, and the solidities, to join together, and that is still become the condition for your perceptions. So now this heap of the aggregates, as long as this is, stick with, connected to the origin of that suffering, connect to the attachment, connect to the, the seed of the anger, seed of the attachment, seed of the jealousy and the pride, all these things. So therefore it named it a condition of suffering. So in the Mahayana, we kind of, we understand this word, condition of suffering means it is not by nature, it is suffering. It is conditional suffering. It is like, you know, the weather is conditional. With summer, it is hot. The weather is conditional with winter, it is cold. The weather is not by nature, it is cold, not is hot. So, the boiling water is hot because it's conditional to be hot. So you can that hot water drink, when it becomes cold. You can separate that water from the hot condition. So what I mean is, in Shariputra, the Arhat Shariputra, while he is alive, he has, eradicates all the seed of delusional mind, attachment. Even the seed of the attachment is abandoned. Therefore, his body, you can name its aggregates, but, if you look closely, it's just named. It's like almost like someone who came from China, right? And he has no passport of Chinese. Now he got the passport and other things. So, by paper, he has no nationality. His national is not the China. So it is because he came from, so he's still people call him Chinese, So it is like that. This, from the beginning, the origin is coming from there. Now he is no longer, your aggregates is no longer, Shariputra's aggregate is no longer associated with any disturbing emotion. So closely, it is not the conditioned suffering. So Shariputra, when the interest in the meditative equipoise and the emptiness, he directly experienced that nirvana, transcendence of the suffering. So in order for experience directly the transcendence of suffering, there's no need to leave the body. You don't have to leave the body. You don't have to separate yourself from the body. In addition, if some of those school who thinks that nirvana means you have to leave the present aggregates, you have to leave the present aggregates. Then the question is, they're saying that so then the stanza number 8 says, if cessation happened through annihilations, not by fully understanding the creations. So then question here is, for example, that the Arhat, when he was alive, he is not directly experienced the nirvana. When he died, and that's when he attained nirvana. So that nirvana is the annihilations of the aggregates. So annihilation of the aggregates. It is not done by wisdom. The nirvana is not done by wisdom. So the wisdom, what is the wisdom doing is, wisdom is preventing the future suffering. You simply attain nirvana by annihilating or from the cessation of the aggregates or being separate from the aggregates. So the nirvana is not necessarily, it is conditioned by the wisdom. So, they're saying if nirvana is not directly brought up to you by the wisdom, so what is the wisdom is help you? So this is why this is difficult to, and then at the same time, this is, so in the time of annihilation of the aggregates, no aggregates at all, not past, not the present, not the future at all, which means you have no aggregates of form, no aggregates of consciousness. And what is there to be experienced that? Who is there to be experienced? The Nirvana. So it kind of, this is some kind of this one particular Buddha's sutra, that particular line, by misinterpreting, and then misunderstood the Nirvana. So transcendence, actually here, the transcendence of the suffering is, transcendence of suffering means nyangal endeavors, going beyond the suffering, or beyond, you are in the stage, or you are in the level or state that afflictive emotion could not reach you. You have just gone beyond to that. And what is that you are rich? What is that you are seeing that you bear? Therefore, you could not. Your mind is not rich, cannot be reachable, cannot be the reachable of the afflictive emotions. So then, it's not about the place, not about the body. And what is that? Your mind is settled in that, total absence of intrinsic existence. So your mind in that, directly observing or become inseparable with wisdom that realize the emptiness. So at that time, it is unreached. It's not reachable by any thought, any emotion. So therefore, in the point of view from that, the wisdom, there is no concept of aggregates. There is no concept of aggregates of the body, aggregates of the feeling, aggregates of the perceptions, aggregates of the mental formations. There is no 5 aggregates. There's no 1 aggregates. So this is the Nagarjuna saying, when Buddha says, without having abandoned this particular condition of suffering, means without, emptying the intrinsic property of this particular condition of suffering, you cannot attain Nirvana. So that, having reached that state or total absence, space of the absence of intrinsic existence, is directly brought by the wisdom. So in this way, you understand what is meant by liberations or nirvana. So yeah. So non-projection of any further suffering up to nirvana indicates suffering in the futures. Therefore, in this context, also the words, yeah. So this is why it's a problem, yeah. When you translate this one, Kyawa Seto. So words, my life is finished. This is very, very, gross, So my birth has totally exhausted all your, the exhaustions of the birth in the secular existence. Kyawa settles. This is how the Arhat, the liberated being, express when they reach the liberations. Now I have reached, there is no, the birth in secular existence. I have experienced no I have experienced exhaustions of the birth and second existence. Indicates non-creations of suffering within this present life. So this indicates when the Arhat express, now I directly experience exhaustions of the birth and second existence. That means his aggregates, his body is no longer under the force of the afflictive emotion, under the influence of the afflictive emotions, under any kind of associations with afflictive emotions. So the expressions, I will not know another birth, so delicious, siba shen mi she su. I don't see the birth in the futures. So at Arahant says, I experienced total exhaustions of the birth. I see there is no next rebirth. Refer to ascertainment of non-creation of the suffering in the future. Thus, since at that time, when the Buddha uttered both of these pronouncements, his aggregates had so this his aggregate has not ceased. His aggregate has not ceased. According to your view, neither that cessations nor even nirvana were seen. So now this is the commenting on this the sutras, the line, not even nirvana were seen. So same, quote from this root text, if the aggregates have not ceased, though the addiction ceased, there is no nirvana. His aggregate has not ceased. So first it says, I will not know another birth. So I do not see any birth in the futures. I directly experience now the exhaustions, total exhaustions of the birth and second existence. So Chandrakirti says, at that time, when the Arhat expressed this, means they have totally abandoned, any intrinsic property of my body, my feeling, my thought, my perceptions. So otherwise, as you think the Arhat has still the condition suffering, and that condition is not ceased. According to your view, neither the cessation nor nirvana has ceased. Now, so from the Prasangika school, read that without having abandoning the intrinsic property of any aggregates, you cannot attain nirvana. So furthermore, if at that time, the moment, when he saw the non-creation of the suffering, he came to the cessation of suffering through not observing its creations. So he came to the cessation of suffering through not observing its creations. Then because you, others do not accept this perspective. I'm not sure this is, do not accept, would not have been Nirvana. So I think better to read Tibetan here. Now says, and also I find this one seems, if I'm not wrong, it missing one. So my lives indicate creation, suffering, present life, while the expressions I will not know another birth refer to attachment, non-suffering in the futures. And also there says, this did not mention, somewhere to the Chawachas, did the Sheva Shem. Yeah. So now when I read in the Tibetans, so yes, now saying yes, if when there is the exhaustion of the birth, and then you can say yes, now the birth in the future has exhausted. There's no future rebirth. So as long as there is continuity of aggregates which propel or appropriated by the previous karma and afflictive emotions, so then how can individuals say he do not see any birth in his second existence? This is the questions, So now in the sutra it says the arhat, the moment they attain nirvana, they express. So I experience total exhaustions of the birth. Now here this question is, the argument is, how can arhat, while he is alive, he can express, I see, I experience total exhaustion of the birth. How can this arhat say? But as long as he still have the aggregates that is appropriated by the karma and afflictive emotions. Having this, the result of the karma and afflictive emotions, how this person will say, I see total exhaustions of the birth and second existence. So this is the question, So this is why I'm saying that, yes, it looks like it is originated from the karma and afflictive emotions. Now, because the mind that with that body is totally, free, set free from even the seed of the afflictive emotions. Now, it may be, this body has first, it has conditioned by the karma and afflictive emotions. Now the mind is totally set free from even the seed of the afflictive emotions. There is no any hand. There's no any hand of the afflictive emotion on this body. There's no any influence. There's no force. There's no association with any afflictive emotions in the present body. So therefore, this body, with arhat, is not exactly, it is the condition of suffering, but it is still carry the name of, the condition of suffering, is still carrying the name of the aggregates or appropriations. It's like somebody, someone who is, for example, So sometimes we give nicknames. Some, for example, in the monasteries, from the beginning, so one new monk comes, he has a little bit difficult speaking, so we give nickname other Buddha. See, always other Buddha. So after he kind of cured from that, but still monks call him other Buddha, his name. So he has no kind of death defects, after totally, cure that, how's that, the defects of speaking, but still he got a nickname or other Buddhas, When even he become a very old senior monk, people say, venerable other Buddhas. so it's almost like that. The Arhat's body is like that, So it's from the beginning, it is born from the karma and afflictive emotions. There is a concept of aggregates. But by definitions, there is no any, the afflictive emotions, the condition associated with this body. Because others do not accept this precept, to this Buddhist renaissance might further object. Why then did the Lord Buddha proclaim the Nirvana as two folds with reminder? So now this is also one of the, one of the main, sources for, Sotandika school and Vavashika school bring argument to the Prasangika school. Sotandika school and Vavashika school says, if this is the case, and why would I mention Arhat divided into two? Nirvana as twofold with the reminder of the aggregates without the reminder of the aggregates. So Nirvana with reminder of one's aggregate is no more. One's aggregate is no more than just the aggregates. One's aggregate is no more than just the aggregates. It is liberation from the bond of the addictions. Nirvana without, reminder of the aggregates is defined as the severing of the severing of the continuum of those aggregates. So without reminder and with reminder. So in Nirvana with reminder, one has abandoned the both of addiction and desire and so forth. Still, if you think that is unacceptable as Nirvana, then how do you explain the statement in the recitation scriptures, having directly perceived Nirvana? Shariputra explained it. So now they both having very difficult saying that Sotandika school and the Vavashika school says, if so Nirvana means, while you are alive or while you are having this aggregates, you can still attain Nirvana, So, and why in the sutra is stated arhats as arhat, the two with reminder and without reminder. So with reminder means arhat, who is free from afflictive emotions, set free from all the cause of suffering, but still left over this conditioned suffering. So without reminders, the Arhat, who, not only he has abandoned afflictive emotions, he also abandoned this very conditioned suffering. So now we bring another, and we argue back to the Suttantric school. It says, if this is the case, the Arhat, with the reminder, has not attained Nirvana, and why? And the Buddha said, as in the scripture it says, Shariputra has attained directly the Nirvana. So does that mean Shariputra attained Nirvana after having died? If Shariputra attained Nirvana after having died, and why says Shariputra directly attained Nirvana?
Wouldn't they say the Shariputra is attained Nirvana with the remainder?
So with the remainder, yeah. So the Nirvana, Arhat is divided into two. Lord Buddha's, now he was kind of, Nirvana, yes. Transcend suffering as a two, with reminder and without reminder. So both are Nirvana. Shariputra, while he is having this aggregate, he directly attained Nirvana, which means to experience Nirvana, you don't have to die. You don't have to leave the aggregates. Having directly perceived Nirvana, Shariputra explained it. Now, if you say, we are certain that this pronouncement was made in terms of the Shariputra's direct experience of the absence of the addictions, but this is not separations from the aggregates. Then, if you fold that to be the case, you cannot explain statement such as he has dispensed with the utterly abandoning these sufferings. So Chandrakirti is saying that, if, once you accept that Shariputra has attained directly the Nirvana, so now if you accept that, and you then, how do you really, how do you read the line in the sutras, without having this condition of suffering being abandoned, you are not going to attain Nirvana. So two things, Nirvana divided into two, reminder without reminders. That also says, it seems that there's the Arhat who attain Nirvana, but not leave the body. And Nirvana is, with body and attain Nirvana. So I think we can only use this to say, when Buddha says, without having this present condition of suffering being abandoned, you are not going to attain Nirvana, which means, that, attain Nirvana means, without you attain Nirvana, you have totally, attained Nirvana, in Nirvanas. But you still have the thought of concept of grasping of aggregates, the body, feeling, thought, perceptions. Then it means you may not be actually attain Nirvana, but you still have in your mind, there is the space in the mind that is, there's actively grasping on the body, feeling, perceptions, So, so Nirvana means even, Nirvana means the individual who has attained liberations, while his meditative equipoise in emptiness, there is no space in his mind to generate any kind of thought that grasping at aggregates, the feeling, the perceptions like that, So, so now in the Prasangika school, Nirvana with reminder means when this individual with arhat, once he is out of that, in the subsequent, meditative equipoise or the post meditations, while he's walking and eating and talking, at that time there is the, conventional, relatively existing of the body, relative existing of the feeling, thought, and perceptions, relatively existing, thought of the concept of or language that he used, my body, my feeling, my thought, my perceptions. So there is, during that time, is called a reminder, with reminder. So yeah, maybe maybe I'm trying to say that as long as there's the mind, mind that is kind of naturally or some kind of the grasping, some kind of intrinsic existing of the body, intrinsic existing of the feeling and thought, or any kind of so, and then you can attain nirvana. Means nirvana with reminder, yeah. So another word is to say right now we have, while we can see things, we can hear the sound. We always, when we hear the sound, we think there is sound that is coming to you. There is a sound that is, some kind of intrinsic property that is by itself coming towards yourself. When you, turn on the light, you will think that when I turn it on, light is coming through the wire and the connect, it's light up. So these are kind of like in a very normal state of mind, you think, the light is intrinsic, sound is intrinsic, the things that you see is intrinsic. So that in your mind, without no doubt, and you therefore, your even physical expression, that color, you say. So when you use your finger, the pinpoint, that means your mind is totally, 100%, no doubt that the color is out there. So the arhats, because they understand, nothing intrinsic. There is no intrinsic property at all. So they don't have any mind in their mind. So there's something out there, that called color, that called sound, that called smell, that called textures. So they don't have any kind of these things. And why? Because these are the signs when you have the thought, when you call color, smell, taste, textures, I am seeing, I am smelling, I am hearing. So when you say that there's each of the sensual objects independently out there, so which means these are the conditions for you to grasp on I am. So the arhat do not have this kind of, intrinsic property remaining or existing with object. So 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 that's the kind of said when you attain nirvana, you don't have any mind, any part of your mind, any part of your thought, believing or conceiving or imagining intrinsic property of any body, feeling, perceptions, thought, and emotions. Not even in, intrinsic property in what you see, intrinsic property in what you smell, intrinsic property in what you hear, intrinsic property in what you feel through the body. So they don't have any of those. If there is, which means your mind is not free from afflictive emotions. So then, when this arhat, when it's totally, abiding in emptiness, then even those conventional, the language has stopped for a while. So there's no thought in the body, color, sound, smell, taste, textures. Even in a kind of relatively existing, it is totally disappears within that emptiness. So that's called, without reminder, nirvana without reminder, without, sometimes English translation use, nirvana without residue, and when during the post meditations, and then there is thought of color, smell, taste, textures. There's thought of body, feeling. There's a thought of my body, my feeling, my perceptions. There's a thought of I am seeing, hearing, smelling, having taste, so experiencing roughness, softness. So there is thought of that, but at even that time, there is no any thought or conceiving or apprehending. There is something called tactilities that is has some kind of intrinsic property. There is no thought of intrinsic property in the sound. There is no thought of intrinsic property in smell and taste and textures. But, conventionally, there is thought of my body, my feeling, so therefore it's called nirvana with residue. So this is totally different from the Sotanic school and Bhavashika school, their understanding nirvana. Their understanding nirvana transcends of the suffering means, you are transcends from the suffering and condition of suffering and, even the aggregates. So there is no attachment, there is no anger, there is no karma, there is no, even the body, there's no consciousness. So this is why the Nagarjuna's, saying that if this is what you think is nirvana, that doesn't sound like this, the annihilation of the aggregates is something brought by the wisdom. Maybe because that illness that makes possible annihilation of the body, maybe that's because of that plane crash that annihilates aggregates, so therefore you are able to attain nirvana. It doesn't really, there's some kind of relation or connected with the wisdom. So separation from the aggregates of all that case, we cannot explain statement that such as he has dispensed with utterly abandoning suffering. We respond the passage from the word utter abandonment of the addicted suffering up to disappearance and are correct, it is clear that assertion of suffering, what's that?
Subsumes.
Clear that assertion of suffering subsums the 5 appropriate aggregates. Assertion of suffering. The passage of utter abandoning the addictions up to discipline is correct. Yeah, so here the suffering, origin of suffering. Subsums that include, when he says sufferings, the subsums, the 5 aggregates, that includes the aggregates. So aggregates, the appropriative aggregates. So that's pretty much is saying that this body, this design made, make it happen by, who appropriated it, who make it happen, and what conditions it make it happen, made it to be happening, is karma and afflictions. So it is named by appropriative aggregates. Aggregates means. Yeah, so sometimes the language says in different languages. In Tibetan and the Dharma language we use pumpo. And pumpo means hip of something. That is, you have many things collectively formed something. So in what condition you have collectively formed this, the wind, heat, the space, air, and the solidities. In what condition it collectively formed. Then we always remember that, it is because my previous lives, his actions and the merits, right? So that's why it's kind of, you can understand the body is appropriated. It's appropriated aggregates. Here the sufferings, origin of the suffering, the world, jigdance, So I think sometimes the word that used in the Tibetan languages, we call jigden, means the basis, perishable basis, or appropriative aggregates, or the suffering, or the origin of the sufferings, so on, are given as the formulations of the 5 appropriative aggregates. Although you hold these words are given, you take the terms of the expressions in general to have the usage as in specific sense. So it's all, appropriative aggregates or suffering or origins of suffering, or perishable basis, So, so which means it's kind of same understanding, same meaning. This is saying that this is the perishable basis, and basis for what? Basis for my life. My life is based on this perishable collections of the elements. This perishable collection of element associated with the emotionals and perceptions, eye consciousness, ear consciousness, those tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and mental consciousness. And all together, I see life of myself. I see the life of myself. So that does not mean your life is the, each of the aggregates, or your life is in each of the aggregates. All together, joined together, make me see a life of individual. Life that is, I see different from, the perishable collections of the, basis. So when there is, one particular specific karma and afflictive emotions appropriating one perishable collection basis, and another karma and afflictive emotions, and gathering another collections of the perishable basis. So then you see is what appropriate this, what appropriate this. So therefore, it is appropriated by one specific origin. So individual, his emotional, his actions, continuously through the energy and collective gathering the perishable basis, and with that individual consciousness sees life of individual or unit, independent life. So this is called the conditional appropriations or appropriative aggregates. So the now Chandrakirti says, in the sense we see, looks like the words are different, but all coming to this one meaning, saying that is a conditional. This is conditioned. So that's why I'm saying when the cloth get dirty, it's conditioned. So which means, without that dirtiness or dust or dirty, and this cloth cannot be dirty. And something that is, something that is the, you have, there's some kind of illness, headache, stomach, or fever are also conditioned. So it is not by the nature of the existing body, you are not, it's kind of like it with particular conditions, your body is, you can say, oh, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, oh, I have fever, I have headache. So which means it is conditional, therefore you find one medicine for the headache, one medicine for the fever, one medicine like food for the hunger, water for the thirst. So because it's not by nature it is existing, it is conditional. So therefore you understand it can be cured, it can be fixed. So this whole appropriate is, named appropriative aggregates, named conditional suffering, under one reason, which is is linked with, is connected with, is influenced by the afflictive emotion and karma. So when you are free from this origin, what is connected to karma and afflictive emotions, but still your body is called aggregates, conditional suffering, but by definitions is no longer that conditional suffering. Because there's no reason, to have any the suffering of the birth and aging and sickness and death. So the usage as in a specific sense, just so when you say the suffering in reference to those very addicted suffering, afflictive emotions, there is no reasonable evidence for connecting it with any specific meaning whatsoever. So as I was saying that, this whole saying conditional suffering, aggregates, and the Prasangika school, when the word is always indicating, yes, it's not, by nature, everything that happening with this body, everything that happening with this mind is not by nature. It's with some condition this happened. When you have flowers, flowering from the, flower stem, so it's with one condition, this flowering. In one condition, there's the weed, and therefore you can find a way to fix, to prevent the weed, to prevent the growth, or to help to further, the growth of these flowers. So everything is not by nature, it is depending on cause and condition. So the suffering is not by nature. So therefore, suffering is, removable because it is conditional. So, and some of the non-Buddhist school thinks that suffering is by nature, it is naturally happening. So naturally or by nature, which means if something happened by nature or naturally it is happening, that happening is not, not under the condition. It is not created. It is not, created or is not conditioned because by nature. So suffering is not by nature. So non-Buddhist schools, the suffering is by nature, and this is because sometimes this is by nature, and suffering is caused by, according to Samkhya school, is the primary substance which is part of the Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is, the root cause of the suffering. The Creator is the root cause of the suffering. And some says, no, Creator is not root cause of suffering. Root cause of suffering is the particles, So anyway, and then we say, what is the particles? Particles which remain, permanent, unchanged. Like still, some people, even those intelligent people think the wave and particles, they remain forever, Because they never see any wave or particle has died. So that is the only reason I did not see, If one died, they may give name, So the reference to these addictive substances, there is no reasonable evidence for the connecting specific meaning whatsoever. Hence, then in the context of the experience of the non-creations of the very nature of the five aggregates. Now they're saying in the context, Arhat's mind in the context of very, nature of the five aggregates. Non-creation of means absence of intrinsic arising of body, absence or intrinsic existing of feeling, absence or intrinsic existing of perceptions, absence or intrinsic existing of, anger, attachment, faith, compassions, So that in the emptiness of the five aggregates, it is inappropriate for you to claim we are, utilizing the general terms in the specific sense. So now they're saying, yes, when you are not in that emptiness, your mind is skimming on the conventional reality. At that time, you may see, oh, there's my body, this is my feeling, this is my thought, this is my perception, this is the color that I am seeing, this is the sound, that is smell, taste, textures. So now saying, so when you are totally focusing on the ultimate nature of all of them, then all this relative existence seems disappearing, dissolving in emptiness, become non-existing, So, so you claim that we are utilizing the general terms in the specific sense. So then there is no such, such thought of the body, feeling, perception, the color, sound, smell, taste, textures in that emptiness. So now they're saying, so when this happened, so the Arhat, whose mind is totally free from all the afflictive emotions and misconceptions, even the seed of any, afflictive emotion or the delusion mind, and how the individual during the post-meditations, when they see their body, when they experience their feeling, when they experience their perceptions, when they see the color and sound, smell, and taste and textures, and they don't have any misconceptions, how do this Arhat sees? So do Arhat has any kind of state of mind or any part of mind that thinks there's some kind of intrinsic property in the body, feeling, perceptions, color, smell, taste, and textures? So they say no, but they still see relatively existing. So that's called, you are given, this aggregate is given a name of aggregates from generalized, or usually it says we see some people are doing bad. We say, oh, these people, we generalize the characters on things. So in this way, although Arhat's mind is free from afflictive emotions, they don't have any sense of thinking or seeing intrinsic property of body, feeling, perceptions. Is free from that, but still, because this is continuing from the aggregates, therefore it named it aggregates. So that's what I'm saying, when, the monks who was from the, when he joined the monastery, he has, difficult speaking, so he got a name, and other brothers. so after having, totally free from that defects of speaking, but still he remained with that nickname. So this is what Chandrakirti is saying. So you just call it aggregates, but there is no definitions of aggregates or the condition of suffering. So I think coming back to the point is This is why the Arhat has this very condition has abandoned. Arhat do not have the condition of suffering even in the present time. So utilizing the general term in the specific sense. So we also have sometimes general terms in the specific. So and sometimes we have in the monasteries, there are many monks from, Amdo, province, right? From the Kham. So one particular monk, named after his state, this. So when we talk about Amdo, which means we're not referring to the province, right? We're just referring to that specific person, because we already give the name, So like, California is coming, which means we're not talking about whole California is coming. So we have, generalized or named California to one specific, So furthermore, if one does not accept that this general sense apply in the dependence on the aggregates is not relinquished, then there could be no nirvana, even with reminders, much less without, despite the criterion of the non-creations of the addictions. So dependence on the furthermore, if one does not accept that the sense, general sense applies in the case when the dependence on the aggregates is not relinquished. So that means that definitions is not relinquished. The condition of suffering, the definitions is not relinquished with the aggregates, his present aggregates. Then there could be no nirvana, even with reminder, despite the criterion of non-creation of the addictions, no arising of suffering, no arising of the suffering. For if one does not accept the reality of non-creation of suffering at the moment as nirvana, then even though one may be free from addictions, since bond of the desire and so forth have been interrupted still. So that's why I'm saying, if the Arhat has some kind of reserve or residue of having some kind of, when they think of my body, so they think if there's some, the leftover mind thinking that, oh, there is the body that is intrinsically exists. There's a feeling, the intrinsic. So that, in that, when he has this kind of the residue still in his mind, and this person is not have attained nirvana. So now see the meaning is totally different in the Prasangika school. What meaning is without having this very condition of suffering is abandoned, no nirvana. Is not talking about leaving this body. It is finding there is no any residue of definition of the condition of suffering in there. In the way free from addiction, since both desire and form have been interred still. So now this saying, this is a very significant point, because in what conditions we see the intrinsic I am, and what condition, what makes us, and what condition we see, the self, the person is something solid and concrete. And Nagarjuna says, because there is, thought of intrinsic property in this body. So there's intrinsic property in this feeling, in this thought, these perceptions, these mental formations. And how do you really kind of, now it's, if you go a little bit specific, and what does that mean? You have a thought of intrinsic property of body. So now saying that your mind is thinking this is the body, that is the basis for me. My existing, for example, in our mind, normal, when we say I am fat, I am thin, I am beautiful, I'm not beautiful, which means that I is existing, based on this body. If the body is intrinsically representing, me being, fat or not fat, or beautiful or not beautiful. So if I really deep in my mind, this body is representing the existing me, means now I have a perfect basis for me to exist. Very solid and concrete, the basis for me to be exist. Seems like I can find myself within this body. So which means again, I have dwell, I have existing, I have inherent in this body. So when you say that this is my feeling, I feel bad, I feel happy, I feel disappointed, I feel scared. So then you see there's some kind of feeling that is really giving you, perfect basis, to exist, to express, scared or not scared, disappointed, not disappointed. This is the very, concrete and solid basis for me to express happy or not happy, which means I felt like, I can really exist with this body, with this feeling, within this feeling, So which means I can inhere in this body, inhere with this body. So that makes me, in my mind, that self of the person I am is very solid and concrete all the time, because my mind's always think or give you the perfect playground for the I to be solid, I to be concrete. So that as long as there is solid thinking of, body, feeling, perceptions, and there is always, the grasping self of me. So one would see that the cause of the, futile, right? Futile. What's the futile? Is it tile?
It's like a
futile view. Yeah. Futile view of the impermanence aggregates. See that the cause of the futile view of impermanence aggregates as I am and mine. So that's what we're going to say. The very solid basis for I am and my feeling, my bodies. So exists further, exists. Therefore, there would be no attainment of any such liberation at all, because once intrinsic I am, once the intrinsic I am and the grasping itself has a perfect ground to be existing, and there is no liberations. So now I think probably some may not be thinking that now this is saying that liberations is in your mind. If you have, if you manage your mind, to perceive the, reality as it is. So there is, within that view, you can find the Nirvana. So Nirvana, so this is why in Rice Seedling Sutra, Buddha says, bhikshus, monks, whoever sees the dependent origination sees the Dharma. Who sees the Dharma sees the Buddha. So the Nirvana is in the way you see. So Nirvana is not in the place. Nirvana is how you see the reality. So I think it's pretty much, it makes sense. The anger is how, anger and how's that? Enemy, unfavorable, annoying, agitating, irritating, all exist the way the mind sees, with object. So compassions, bodhicittas, and the liberation is also, you can find the way the mind sees in object. So the mode of way of engaging in objects creates second existing in Nirvana. The suffering and happiness is also in, you can find the way, the mode of the engaging in the mind, mode of the engaging of the mind within the reality, within the object. Because seeing that give rise to the addictions, to desire and so forth, therefore there would be no attainment of any such liberation at all. Consequently, it is the, irrational to assert that one is liberated under such circumstance. Under such circumstance, from the annihilation of the aggregates. So no body, no mind is not Nirvana. You become somebody, nobody, and then you attain Nirvana. So, and so regarding the aggregates, the Nagarjuna state, the absurd consequences that So when here you have intrinsically ceased, only then absurdly you will be freed. Kanse te tengaba, te sena chorajus. Pumbu mibi gyute le chuma, nyumu mi gyu mi shibi shir, te pumbu gaba, tenyang mi sitos. Nyumu namje yola, gyute le chuma, leji pamba yigena, gyu nyumu bada le chuma, kiwe gyu tatu ba mewa gyu mi shir, te pumbu na. Number chebe, tsinyi, tarpa mi sitos. So now they're saying that, Nirvana is, as I mentioned, Nirvanas that you attain, you directly experience, you taste the cessation of suffering, in one, how's that? The simple word is, this is how you view, in the reality. So you will find or experience the Nirvana in, the way you see things exactly as it is. There you can experience. It is absurd to think that, Nirvana is something somewhere you attain, by annihilating the existing of your, body and consciousness. So when you intrinsically, when here you have intrinsically ceased, this is kind of, in Tibet it says, Kanse Tei Tengapas, Tei Sena Chorajus, Kanse Tei Tengapas, Kangse is when. So when you, abandon or when you have negated, so like Prasangic school, Chandrakirti and the Nagarjuna are saying, you will see the Nirvana, you can have a taste of Nirvana when your mind successfully, abandoning or negating the intrinsic property of all phenomena. So when you abandon all the intrinsic property of all phenomena, which means your mind is, engaged or, settled or abiding in the ultimate reality of the phenomena, that there you can find nirvana, because in that way you can, set free your mind from all the bondage of the afflictive emotions. So now, in the opposite way, you find the Siddhantika school, Vaibhashika school, you are saying that nirvana is something you find through annihilations of the continuum of the body and the mind. So, saying just from the annihilations of the continuity of the consciousness of the body is very absurd, is it's kind of like this maybe there is a story during the Buddha. There's one of the great we call Dachuman Naboba, the Arhat, the black Arhat, So he was, kind of in a way that, the way he freed so many, sentient beings free from, secular existence was almost the countess. Like everybody says, this is too much, too many. And then there's the worldly gods, some of them, and they get jealous. He was so popular, and he successfully freed so many sentient beings. So then, as one of the worldly god, he disguised in Buddha in front of him. So this Arhat first thought, this is really the Buddha Shakyamuni, and he bowed to do the prostrations, and then his disguise disappears. So this is like saying that you have faith in the Buddha, but you are really bowing towards a Mara. So the Siddhantika school, the Vaibhashika school, they have really kind of interested, very much eagerly, they're seeking for the liberations. But they aim at the annihilation of the body and the consciousness. Something which is not a nirvana, they think this is the nirvana, and they have a very strong desire to attain that state.
It's okay to translate this as part of the stanza. So when everything ceases, only then you will be free.
When you cease, now you say you can understand cease, abandoning, negating, refuting. So it's like if you manage to cease, if you manage to negate or refute intrinsic property on every phenomenon, So he is notorious, then there is, there's nirvana. So if you, if you find the annihilations of the continuation of the form in consciousness, and that time you think it's nirvana, that is absurd. This is like it's the black arhat who thinks that the black elephant arhat sees the Mara as the Shakyamuni, and he started paying doing the prostrations to the Mara. So there's according to Vinaya text, there's this particular arhat was very, very successful. He counted each of the arhat that he liberated. When one arhat he liberated, and he brings in this kind of we call small sticks. They put in one big like almost like warehouse. So this individual, after enlightened or arhat, he put this stick, and then whole that house is filled with this. So some think that looks like it's almost like Shakyamuni. He liberates so many countless sentient beings. This also arhat is doing the same time. So this was kind of he was kind of very much successful. And then the worldly god get jealous and say, I'm going to deceive this arhat, So he disguised Shakyamuni. He want to, maybe misguide him, mislead him. So when the arhat sees looks like Shakyamuni, he starts doing the prostrations, and he no longer could, pretend Shakyamuni. Dajuma Napopa Nakpopa means, it's a black arhat. Maybe he's from South India. So, for sure he's not from Northern India. Yeah, okay. Oh. Sorry, yeah. Chanju Simjo Rinpoche, Majebana Geshe, Kevanyamba, Mevanya, Kondo Pebble, Tonya Dawa Rinpoche, Majebana Geshe, Kevanyamba, Mevanya, Kondo Pebble, Pama Simjan, Dead and Danger, Rotam, Tato Toma, Chanju Seba Kanda Sushi, Tadagunja, Monum Dujuris, Harera Voko Vision, Panda de Woman, Rujuman, Jerezama, Dinzin Jazu, Shabe, Sideba to Danger.
May the precious body mind not yet born arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forevermore. May the precious mind realizing emptiness not yet born arise and grow. May the bone have no decline but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all Father and Mother sentient beings have all the happiness, and may all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful Trinity Tenzin Gyatso, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see the time.